Hi guys, and welcome back to We Film Things. If you're new here, I'm Eliska, this is Jack, and we do all things travel and adventure on this channel. Photography is also a large part of what we do here, and it's actually a large part of my job too. All this lockdown business means that we haven't gotten to shoot as much as we would like to lately, and I'm really missing it. But I am determined to get my mojo back, lockdown or no lockdown. So today I'm going to share 5 tips on how to get better photos of yourself in your own home, all by yourself, really supercharge your selfie game and get some high-end photos, or at least higher end than they were before. Full disclosure, I got this idea from this excellent and hilarious video by Chris Chu, so go check that out obviously when you're done watching this, because otherwise that's just like rude and also sad for me. So anyway, as someone who's been taking photos of themselves from their tender teenage years, I feel like I've got a thing or two to add to this conversation. So let's get into it. First of all, let's talk about tools. Today I'm shooting on my trusty A7R II, and I'm using my phone as a remote. You can see me right there. I just use the Imaging Edge app as a remote control so that I can fire my camera from further away from me and I don't have to worry about running back and forth. But I have fancy gear because I do this for a living. If you don't have fancy gear, not a problem. You can just use your timer setting on your phone or a cheap remote control that you can literally get for almost any camera or phone off of Amazon. I think these go for like £5 or something. Trust me, I have tested my phone's selfie taking skills for years on end and they work perfectly fine. So that said, you do want to work with a timer or a remote control. You don't want to be seen to be holding your picture taking device in the photo itself because that's just very obviously a selfie. Okay, so my first tip is find the light. That sounds super conceptual and kind of airy-fairy, but when you start paying attention to the way that light is cast on your object or in your location, that is when your photos start getting good. You have most likely been spending a lot of time in your own home, so you should have a pretty good idea of how the light comes in and how it changes during the day. So annoyingly but predictably, on the day that I decide to film this video, it's the first cloudy day we've had in quarantine. Yay, love that for me. I, for example, know that this flat is east facing, so we only really get direct light in the morning. It's nice and bright till about 12 o'clock, 1 p.m, after which it might as well be midnight because there is no light whatsoever. Just to show you how dark it is in our flat, it's literally 1:30 p.m. and we have to have all of the lights on. So I know that if I want to get that direct glowy light, or if I want to get really sharp contrast, then I have to shoot before noon. I love the shadows cast by various objects in my house. For example, this plant or this chair, or even the window panes themselves kind of cast strips of shadows. I find that things with kind of regular gaps in them work really well, if you know what I mean. Slatted furniture or kind of woven baskets with big gaps, that kind of thing. Those cast really interesting and kind of regular shadows. Play around with different furniture and objects in your house. Put them in the direct sunlight so they cast a harsh shadow on you and see what results you can get there. Look out for any cool light quirks as well. We live by a canal and the water casts this beautiful dancing reflection on the ceiling on a bright day. I've always wanted to use that for a photo shoot, so this video is the perfect excuse. Okay guys, let me show you my ridiculous setup. I've basically got my camera planted on the windowsill there. Basically, I need to get as close to the ceiling as possible, so I'm standing on the desk. I've also not cleared the desk because I'm lazy. So it's like a little bit of a balancing act, but let me try and show you what this actually looks like when I'm shooting. Ridiculous, basically. But even if you don't have something like that naturally occurring in your house, you can definitely set things up yourself. So you can use light reflections from mirrors or those like glass prisms when light goes through that and the light rays get separated so you get the color spectrum. Disco balls work really well. Generally, things that reflect, things that are funky shaped and let the light through. So I started feeling a little bit ridiculous right about now, but luckily for me, no passers-by ever look up. I don't know why that's a thing, why we never look up when we walk. They didn't really get the opportunity to judge me, which is their loss really, if you ask me. My next tip is to use mirrors in creative ways. So I love playing with reflections on client shoots. I often use windows or like panes of glass to get like just a little bit of interest in there without having to do too much in post. And let's face it, most of us will have mirrors in the house. So this is a very accessible activity. I've seen this done in high-end photo shoots in Vogue. I've seen it all over Pinterest. Once you get your head around how the camera is kind of looking at you and how to get yourself in frame. It's a really fun thing to play around with. You can try and do it with a large mirror and get your entire body into it, or a smaller mirror and just play around with your face. It's just quite fun, and it's a really easy way to get some interesting results. Admittedly, I went a little bit overboard on this one. So this particular photo involved a little bit of editing in post, but I think you can get really creative. Okay. And you know, mirrors make it look like you're not all on your lonesome. There's at least 2 of you.
Thank you for coming, chin chin, chin chin.
All right, my next tip is to look for textures in your house. What you want to look for is some sort of a contrast, so either hard and soft textures, a marble next to like a soft satiny textile, or rough textures and smooth textures. So we have this jute rug, which kind of looks nice but is quite annoying. But this isn't an interiors channel, so we're using it as a photography backdrop here. I've always thought it might look cool as a background, so I kind of pinned it to the top of a door and hoped that it wouldn't fall on my head with all the crumbs that are inevitably like stuck between the jute bits, which it didn't, so that's great. I wanted it to look quite studio-like. It's always fun interacting with your camera and pretending that there's a camera person giving you directions when it's actually you on your lonesome being pretty vain. No judgment from me, evidently. I really like the way this rough texture looked against the kind of cold white plain walls, and in spite of that, it all looked quite minimalistic as a background, so I quite liked the way that turned out. Might be using it in the future. Might hoover the rug before I try it out with anyone else though. My next tip is to incorporate the unexpected. Again, that sounds super conceptual, but just using everyday objects out of the ordinary. One of the ideas I had was to wear a suit, hold up a plant, and make it look like the plant is kind of my head. I think I would have had to shoot it to show it to you so that you don't think I'm completely crazy, but in the end what I went with was playing with a little bit of perspective. Okay, there are better things we could have outside our windows, but never mind. I'm shooting this photo lying down on my windowsill, and what I'm going to do is flip it so that it looks like I'm either being windswept or gravity's a bit funky, or it just looks a little bit weird and distorted because obviously my hair and my clothes are being dragged downwards, but downwards is now sideways. So flipping things on their heads a little bit, whether that's perspective or objects themselves, always makes things a little bit interesting. And my last tip, which you can definitely combine with all of the other tips, is to shoot the details. Your portrait doesn't always have to be kind of your classic like passport photo. It doesn't even have to be your full body. I think going in closer in on details can often be really interesting and intriguing, especially if you're shooting photos as a series for maybe either a blog post or for your Instagram carousel. If you're combining photos together, it's always nice to have varying perspectives. So you want to get quite close in, quite far out, kind of middle ground. That makes the photos look a little bit different but still work together really nicely. Here I've gone in for a kind of hand shot with the mirror. I really like the way this looks like I'm reaching out to touch another person when actually, again, I am all on my lonesome. We all know that. You can get in closer on details on the face. That can be really good for conveying emotion. Shoulders and collarbones and kind of like the shape of the neck. It can be very fashion, but there's something a little bit like sexy and sensual about those bits of your body without being like straight up porno. But look, if you want to shoot your toes, then like each to their own. Anyway, those are all of my tips, guys. We've gotten into toes here, so it's clearly time to end this video. But if this video inspires you in any way, shape or form, if you try any of these tips out and post them anywhere, then I'd love to see them. Either tag us on Instagram at WeFilmThings or drop your links in the comments below, but just have fun with it. If you're a little bit bored, it's a fun thing to do. You never have to post the photos anywhere. It's a good thing to experiment with. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, give it a little thumbs up. Let me know if you want more kind of photography and video related content. We usually focus on travel, but obviously we're not going anywhere anytime soon. So short of like going through the backlog, this is the kind of thing that we can focus on here. I get a lot of questions about how we edit our photos on Instagram as well, so I'm definitely going to be doing a video on that. If you're interested in that, then make sure you subscribe so that you know when that comes out. And if you do, then I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye.